So I've done prediction videos in the past, but usually I'm pretty bad at them, so this season, for Kamen Rider Gavv, I decided to wait till episode 5 to let the story develop a little more so I can get a few more predictions in, or just hopefully get some right. Gavv has been non-stop with the story and the world-building elements, so I figured I'd let it sizzle and marinate a little more before I jump into what I think is going to happen down the line this season. There's also the added caveat of they're about 20 episodes ahead in their filming schedule for Kamen Rider Gavv, so a lot of what's coming has been leaked online in one place or the other. I'm going to try to avoid those leaks for this video and simply tell you what I think is going to happen based off of my knowledge from these first 5 episodes. Because I think I've dialed in some good ones and I think I might have an idea where this story is going.
Okay.
So without further ado, here are my top 5 predictions for Kamen Rider Gavv. Number 1, Shoma will eat a dark treat and unlock a new form. Now, hear me out with this one because there are some caveats. I wanted to call it a berserker form, but so far in the Reiwa era, we don't really have full-fledged berserker forms rather than forms with a drawback. For Revice, we had Vice take over Iki's body for his form. For Geets, Ace got a form that made him sleepy instead of, actually going berserk. So I think the days of like your basic berserk forms are out the window, but I also think Shoma might get a berserk form of a different kind. What I think happens in this story is that Shoma is going to be forced to eat a dark treat, whether that's from like pure starvation or one of the villains actually shoving it down his throat and feed him a dark treat. But then I think when he unlocks his new form after that, Shoma is going to go through kind of this addiction to dark treats. And I don't mean like he eats a bunch of them. I mean, he really, really wants one. Like he craves them. He's sweating. He's doing the whole thing and he just refuses to eat them. I think we're going to get this real story about addiction and withdrawals through the lens of this children's show. We've already seen in episode 5 that other Granoots are addicted to this, and it's a shameful thing, as you can see from the scene where one Granoot goes to buy them. And while I understand Shoma's morals and drive and how strong they are, I also understand addiction. I have family members who have struggled with addiction, and I think showing it through the lens of this children's show is not far off from where the story is right now and things that Kamen Rider has tackled in the past, especially in the past few years. Shoma's not perfect. He's been sheltered through a lot of his life. He hasn't experienced a lot of things, and one of those things he hadn't experienced was human snacks like chips and marshmallows and all that stuff. And from all that stuff, he got this immense joy. But something he also hasn't experienced is dark treats because his mother wouldn't let him have them. So it would be interesting to see what his reaction to that would be and the story that plays off of that. Number 2 is something I also think is a layup. I think Shoma's dad's alive. As of episode 5, we see Shoma's dad finally and him interact with his mom, and he's not the most loving of fathers, or I don't even know if he's a husband, boyfriend, kidnapper, I don't know. But he's just like, he's obviously abusive, but somewhere in there is love, as we see by him trying to protect Shoma by asking his uncle or his brother, one of the two, to do the surgery on Shoma's Gavv. And we can tell later that Shoma obviously has a lot of resentment towards his father, which we've seen in Kamen Rider before. But since the beginning, we were told that Shoma's father is dead over and over again, although we were shown that his mother had died, and we were shown in a kind of brutal way. And the way the show is going, I don't think they would just say someone is dead without showing they're dead, so I think that the Stomach family might have Shoma's dad locked up somewhere in that big castle factory that they have. So I think Shoma's dad is going to be making an appearance later in the season because our main character definitely has some unresolved issues with his father, and his father might have some underlying motivations that he has to explain to his son. What that relationship will look like after that has yet to be seen. Prediction number 3 is that there is a mole inside the main Stomach family. Now I know what you're gonna say, Hawk, this one seems obvious because we saw Nielv make that call a few episodes ago. So yes, obviously I think Nielv is the mole, but I think he's the mole to a larger Granute world and authority. Episode 5 shows us that the dark treats are very much sold on the black market, and it's mentioned that there is some higher authority that might eventually crack down on Stomach Inc. I absolutely think we're going to see what this higher authority is, and they're going to be big players in the later game of Kamen Rider Gavv. The show's been really good about giving us little tidbits of lines for world building and then expanding on them later. I think those two scenes lead into one another and are going to coincide with Niel turning the tide and becoming part of this larger organization. And maybe, because it seems to be this Reiwa era, trend, he's our villain that will become a Kamen Rider. Not like an evil rider, but maybe like an anti-hero rider. Like he's not part of our main trio, but he will be on his own trying to stop Stomach Inc. Because again, as we saw in the last episode, not all Granute are evil, and not all Granute even crave dark treats. Shoma's uncle didn't go off about craving dark treats in that whole scene we saw him in, so I think in the overall world of the Granute, Shoma has been introduced to a very small portion of it, the Granute that cross over into the human world to collect humans to make into spices for these dark treats. But I do think there is a functional Granute society where that's not even a concern, where dark treats aren't part of that overall society. They're part of the seedy underbelly drug cartel going on in Stomach Inc. Number 4 is I think that Gavv's final form will be emotionally connected to his mother. From what we've seen so far, it's not every food that Shoma eats that becomes a gochizo. What I think is happening is it's only foods that his mother told him about and that she enjoyed that become his minions. Things that he has this kind of close personal connection with. The mother has mentioned wanting potato chips, marshmallows, gummies. He knew about these things before coming to the human world. And the only way that could have happened is if his mother told them about it during his childhood. So what I think is going to happen is that Shoma is going to try a food that will unlock a memory of his mother making him some kind of homemade meal. Something that was maybe snuck into the Granute dimension by, a rogue Granute or someone that was friends with Shoma and his mother, some ingredients that she was able to make into a full meal for her son and be like, look, this is what the human world tastes like. This is where I am from. As much as I understand his final form just being like feast final form and combining all the gochizos that we would have so far or having every power of them, I can't think of an emotional story that would go with that kind of form. But, I'm not the writer of the show, so they might just opt for that. But I really, really hope they go a more personal route with it and make it something tied to either his mother or his father, or maybe both. And my final prediction is that Sachika will become a Kamen Rider. I'm just kidding. That one's kind of obvious, but it's Toei, so who knows if that'll happen. No, my final prediction is that Kenzo Suga will play a very, very large role in the latter half of the series as a villain. This is the George of our series. Kenzo is taking Granute technology along with Gavv's Gochizos and making the Valen Buster next episode. We know that, but I also think that his motivations are a little more nefarious. Even when he's talking to Hanto in earlier episodes, he kind of has this air of mystery to him that's nefarious, if that makes sense. I don't know. George took way too long to turn to be a bad guy and then instantly turn back. I don't think they're going to make that mistake with Kenzo. In fact, I think he becomes the villain that the Team Gavv and whatever that higher Granute authority have to unite to fight together against later in the season. I think Kamen Rider does really well when it has these 3 factions that it has to maneuver around each other for the late game. And I can already picture Kenzo with this mischievous smile on getting ready to henshin, and then we see Shoma and Lango have to team up together to try to take him down. But the last couple seasons have introduced our final bosses around episode 12 to 15, so maybe I'm wrong on this one, but also George was there since episode 1, and so was the Arc, kind of, and so was Storius, so really we're 3 and 2 on that one, with the other side having Regad and Grion. But those are just my predictions off the first 5 episodes. I am loving Kamen Rider Gavv so far. Let me know what you think is going to happen in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe the video, and I will see you next time.